Davey Johnstone talks about joining the Elton John band for the very first time on the album Madman Across the Water, which of course had Leadon, Tiny Dancer, Razorface, and the title song. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music. Now remember, Davey has a brand new album out. There'll be links in the description of this video where you can buy it. Also links to the entire interview. Usually when we release part one of an interview, the entire interview is on our sister channel, Rock History Book, and there'll be links right at the top of the description if this clip is not long enough for you and you want to hear the whole thing. So check that out. It's also a podcast. Here's Elton John's famous guitarist, Davey Johnstone. It's been a lot of years with Elton. I mean, interestingly, my favorites over there, my favorite Elton John album, it's one of my top 3 albums of all time, is Madman Across the Water, that was the first album I ever bought. And then later on, I found out, I'm looking at the liner notes and go, who is, because the good thing about Elton, if you're growing up in the 70s, you could buy an album and say, oh, what, there's 4 albums I don't have? Oh, this is great. But so I wanted to learn everything I could about you. And before we knew it, Honky came out and Don't Shoot Me and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. But you were brought in for the title song, right? They were having problems with Madman.
Yeah. My dear friend, Gus Dudgeon, another one who's unfortunately gone. Gus was brilliant. He was very, very important in those. He was a real catalyst for getting me involved with the album thing. But I believe they tried the song. They'd been recording for a whole day, and they tried it with Mick Ronson, and they tried it with Mike Chapman. And I believe it was Mike Chapman who said to Gus, you should get Davey for this. And he's going like, well, who's Davey? He said, well, he's a young Scottish kid who's just started to do a lot of sessions. He could do this. So they called me, and of course I came down, never turned down a gig ever, especially when you're 19, and went into the studio and met Elton, and Gus said, well, this is the song we want to play. And he said, Elton played the beginning, his piano take on it. And he said, we want it to be acoustic guitar. What do you think? And I went, okay, what about that? And I played something, the first thing that came into my head. And they said, we love it. That's the one. So, one of my strengths has always been the ability to hear something and come up with something immediately about it, if it's required. That's always been one of my main strengths as a session player, and also when I'm working with great musicians like Elton or whoever else. We tend to work very quickly, and I think that's something that most of the great players do. They work very, very fast, and they expect you to be right there with them. And luckily, I've been able to do that all these years with Elton.
Sorry to interrupt you. Do you think that's why by the time you guys got to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, you did it in 16 days and you were just like, I've heard all the stories, especially when I did the research for the anniversary edition of the fact that, as you'd said before in interviews, here you are putting something on your toast and he's back there with the electric piano doing something. But to me, it just seemed like a well-oiled machine by then as a band.
Completely. Also there was the added bonus of having the 4 of us who were so close. At that point, it was still Elton, myself, Dee, Murray, and Nigel Olsson. And then later, Ray Cooper came into the picture as a permanent member of the band, which was awesome. Ray's still my dear friend. He's out here. But back in those days, as soon as we started playing at the Chateau, the 4 of us together for the first time, it was magic. It was like, okay, this obviously was meant to happen. These 4 people just coming and meeting up. Who knew? It was just all the right place, the right time, the whole thing. And it was an amazing experience. And suddenly it was like, well, we don't have to tell each other anything. Nobody's ever told anybody what to play, really. We just all fall in as Elton was writing and come up with our own ideas. And suddenly we had a track. And because I was like really the only other melodic player as far as melodic instrument, Dee was a great melodic bass player, but that's what he played. So most of the overdubbing was left to me. Occasionally Elton would play a little bit of mellotron or maybe electric piano on a track, but that was kind of it. So all the overdubs were left to me, and it was wonderful because I was let loose with all my other instruments and slide guitar and effects and different things that I'm into, and so it was all done by the four of us, and it was wonderful. And occasionally we'd use a string arrangement by my dear departed buddy, another one, Paul Buckmaster, who another really, I mean, what an amazing arranger. He's right up there with my friend James Newton Howard, who's now doing movies. But for the most part, it was just the four of us, and that's what it was. It was a wonderful little band. And if anything's missing these days, I miss that thing of it being just the four of us traveling around and doing what we did, because obviously those things change. And, Elton's now the giant brand, if you like. He's a big star, and that's his thing. I do miss those times back then but I tell you what, it's still the same when we go into the studio. The same thing happens. I'll sit down with him by the piano and we'll start messing around, and, we'll have something in 20 minutes,
We'll have another clip from Davey Johnstone in a few days. Remember, if you want to hear the entire interview, it is on our sister channel, Rock History Book. And this is also a podcast. There'll be a link to it in the description of this video, and a link for you to buy Davey's brand new album. Make sure you comment on our videos. We read all the comments. Buy a t-shirt, you can help support the channel. And remember, subscribe to the channel. It makes us very happy. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music. Take good care of yourself.